What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media tonight. My name is Ryan Linkletter. I'm here with Dan Loya. Week 13 was nothing less than as crazy as the NFL season's been the entire year. And we'll start it off with that Denver Broncos game that we just got. Man, that conclusion was awesome. The Washington Commanders were really good tonight, and Marcus Mariota played a great game. And Denver, once again, not super impressive, but they win another one-score game, and that's been the story for the Broncos this year. Is whoever they're playing, they'll play to their level of competition, and then do whatever it takes to find a way to sneak out in the end. What were your thoughts on this one, Dan?
Yeah, I thought it was a good game, man. Just like you said, I think Denver reminds me a lot like of a college football team. Like it seems like every week they play a real close game. They're ranked in the top 10, and we're like, oh, is this the week they're finally exposed? And but somehow, some way, they just find a way to win these close games. And I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, it's like you look at this team, the Denver Broncos team, like this is a special team. Like these guys are going to be it's a great flight home for them all the way back to Denver. This is how championship teams are born. I'm sure that locker room's real excited to pull out a victory. Hard fought battle. Some things didn't go well, some things did, and it was just a great game to watch and just a wild weekend, man. It's hard to get a win in this league. We saw a lot of teams, a lot of underdogs win football games this week, and Denver pulled it out, dude.
Yeah, I thought that, the Broncos found a way in this one to, Bo Nix had some flashy plays in this one. I just think the weird thing with them is that every week they have zero offensive consistency, right? You never know what you're going to get from the Broncos offense this year, and this performance was no different. They started slow in this one. Bo Nix in the fourth quarter had a massive turnover that allowed Washington to get a field goal. It could have been a massive swing there, but the defense is the thing I always look at with Denver, right? Their defense is so elite, right? And honestly, they got exposed a little bit at times tonight with some of their over the top coverages. And Riley Moss, who has gotten a lot of penalties this year, has gotten beat over the top a good amount. And there's holes in this Denver defense. And I thought Marcus Mariota played a great game, not Mariota, as Chris Collinsworth was saying the
Mariota,
entire night, which was insane. I
Mariota.
mean, that guy, Chris Collinsworth, is on something. So I don't know what he's saying with
Here's the
Mariota,
guy.
but
Here's
I'll
the
I'll
guy.
say this with the Commanders. They played really well. Jaden Daniels is probably back for them next week, but it's a good thing they didn't win this game. That helps their draft position for next year because they're well out of the playoff race. And this just is another example of you have old, slow players in that defense, and they run a strictly heavy zone scheme. They're going to get beat, right? And all you saw on that last drive was bing, bang, boom, over the middle of the field. 35-year-old Bobby Wagner can't cover anymore, right? These older players in Washington, they need an infuse of talent. And then finally with Denver, like with them, everybody's gonna probably say the same thing, and it could be split, but everybody's gonna be like, Denver's not legit, right? This team keeps winning one score games. Bo Nix is not very consistent.
They're good.
The thing that I'll say with Denver is they're gonna be sitting as a top three seed in the AFC. They're gonna be having home field advantage, a place where they have been really successful at, and they have the best defense or the second best defense in the NFL. Them and Houston have unbelievable defenses, right? That is a combination that you want to have in the playoffs. And whether or not Bo Nix is going to elevate his play down the stretch here, we will see. But Denver is a force to be reckoned with in a weekly matchup. And whether or not they find out to actually take over a game and play consistent throughout, we will see. And that's going to determine how far they go. But with Denver, they're a tough out regardless because of that defense. We're going to welcome in Brady. Brady, what were your thoughts on the
Oh,
Denver Broncos squeaking out a win over the Commanders?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like kind of like you just mentioned, the Broncos seem to do this every game. But my question would be as it relates to, we see all the stuff about, the Patriots schedule and how they're frauds and how they're the team that's going to be an easy out in January. And I don't think Denver's an easy out, but I have a bone to pick with this take because let's just take a look at a few of these. You got a 13-11 win over the New York Jets. You got a 10-7 win over the Raiders. You got this game tonight where you got diced up by Marcus Mariota. Your best win is what? The Chiefs, who kind of look like they suck, or the Cowboys, who that was pre Quinton Williams. That defense is playing horrendous. That's probably their best win. That's their most complete win, is that game at home against Dallas. They squeaked it out against the Titans in week one. This team does have an elite defense. There's no doubt about it. But it's like, Are we saying that the Texans are a contender to win the AFC? I don't think so. I don't think any of us are saying that. And it's very similar constructed teams. And I would say that while Denver has the coaching edge on Houston, like Sean Payton's better than D'Amico Ryans. Do you think Bo Nix is better than CJ Stroud? I know CJ hasn't been rookie CJ Stroud yet, but I'm still taking CJ if you give me my choice between the two. Like the best receiver on either side, it's Nico Collins. So I don't, Denver's done a good job of finishing games. They've done a really good job in the fourth quarter and then in tonight and overtime, making just enough plays to win the ball game. But when you get the discourse around these AFC teams, I totally understand people's, trepidation with the Patriots being an inexperienced team and having that weak schedule. But you look at the strength of victory. Patriots have a higher strength of victory percentage or higher, however they grade out the metric. They have a better strength of victory than Denver does, even if they have a weaker strength of schedule. And I'm just wondering why like the fraud comments and all of these things aren't being thrown at Denver as much as they are towards New England. That's my number one thing that I want to start off with.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part with the AFC that we're going to see how it plays out is the playoff field is going to be weird, right? It's going to be a different type of AFC, right? You'll see probably, how it plays out. We could see any team in that AFC make a run, right? Depending on their matchups. And we talk about this on a weekly basis that depending on who each team matches up with, it'll determine how far they go in the playoffs, right? You saw Buffalo today, and we'll kind of start talking about that game now because that was one of the bigger games of the week. They manhandled the Steelers. That's a team that if the Steelers somehow get a 4 seed, Buffalo gets a 5 seed, that could be an opening matchup we see in Pittsburgh. And you look what happens when Buffalo faces a team that, Pittsburgh's had some games where they've ran the ball well, but Buffalo is able to negate that with their, mediocre run defense, bad weather conditions. Josh Allen played well majority of the day. James Cook had a nice day. Like this Buffalo team, while they'll probably be a wild card team for sure at this point, sitting in that 5 to 6 slot most likely, right? They're as scary as anybody just because of their quarterback that they have, and they've been there more than a majority of the teams that we'll see in this AFC playoff picture. And then you look at Pittsburgh side of things, like, man, this defense is just incredibly frustrating. You never know what you're going to get from the Steelers defense, whether it's going to be a great performance where the pass rush is there, they're forcing turnovers, right? Everything's working well. One game, it's the passing game is just non existent. And then the run game today, 230 yards allowed after having some pretty decent numbers against the ground the entire year. And then obviously offensively, they had their limitations. Basically, they have no elite weapons. Like DK Metcalf is a good piece, but he's not elite by any means. Like they don't have enough on that offensive side of the ball. Dan, I'll start with you. Looking at Buffalo and Pittsburgh, what were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, dude, it's just the fact. Oh, yeah, I'm good, right? Yeah, it's just the fact that like the Buffalo Bills just totally like kicked their ass. I'm gonna keep it simple. When's the last time a team's done that to Pittsburgh in on the road? Just like you said, 238 rushing yards. The Bills once they get that rushing game going, it's over, dude. And I think my main takeaway for that game is just overall that division stinks. The AFC North is one of the worst divisions in the league. You can't trust any of those teams, and
Hey, we
one
can't
team's
even
gonna host
count
a playoff
Cincy
game.
out all of a sudden.
No, you
I know,
can't.
but
That's
that's
what
the
we were
crazy
talking
thing.
about.
So that division is up for grabs, and the Steelers aren't consistent. Their defense, you never know what you're gonna get, and it's very frustrating, I'm sure, for their fans to get. I mean, their fans were booing at the end of the game. It's tough if you're a fan of the Steelers. They get totally run out of the building at their home stadium, and it's one of the embarrassing losses. And I know the press conference, Aaron was like, taking accountability and holding other teammates accountable. But we're going to see how they respond in the coming weeks. But Buffalo, it says about it was a really impressive win for them. True resilience after getting punched in the mouth on Thursday night against the Texans. They've responded really well, ran the ball, overall played well as a team, and I want to watch this game again just to see if I missed anything. But overall, man, I'm impressed with Buffalo, and the AFC's wide open, dude. It's anybody's thing. It's going to be March Madness. I think that's what it's going to be. AFC. We don't know who's going to win. Somebody's going to somebody's going to win the conference, but I have no idea who.
What are your thoughts, Brady?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this game sucked. Like it really sucked. Like this was a really boring, tough game to get through. I thought like, it might be a solid matchup with the Steelers pass rushers and Buffalo having both tackles out. And it was a struggle offensively for Buffalo in the first half, but then they got back-to-back turnovers from Aaron Rodgers on defense to start the second half, and it kind of got away from Pittsburgh there. And I'm just feeling, same as I was last year around this time with the New York Jets. I'm feeling very vindicated with my stance on the Aaron Rodgers experience, because I remember sitting here with you guys in week one and everybody else on the panel was talking about, man, Aaron Rodgers looks great. Like the Steelers can really win the North. And that could still happen because, like Dan said, the North does stink. The Steelers are not out of it by any means. But this is just not a very good football team. I mean, they were what, 4-2, and now they're 6-6, like so 4-1, and now they're 6-6, something like that. They're just not very good. Aaron Rodgers has done this two stops in a row at this point. It's got everybody all bought in, thinking that they're going to get 2021 Rodgers, and they're just not. Like, he's not the same guy anymore. You can't even fault him that much for that because he's 40 years old or whatever at this point. But he fools all these fan bases into buying in, and they go get weapons for him. They try and build a defense for him, and then it just all collapses. And then you see him calling out teammates in the press conference, and it just is the same thing that it was for the Jets last year, I feel like. And the Steelers, the best thing for them is to miss the playoffs, to be below 500, and to blow everything up. Because at this point, you invested a ton of money into TJ Watt. He's not looking good. You invested a ton of money into Cam Hayward. He's getting into it with Josh Allen more than he's getting production on the field. He's old. You went and got Jalen Ramsey. He's old. Darius Slay. He's old. Mike Tomlin has not won a playoff game since Barack Obama was in office. So, I mean, it's just that you need a new direction for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if they get another one of these BS 9-8 winning seasons where they just miss the playoffs, they'll cope themselves into thinking that they have still a good foundation and they can go win with a couple moves, and they just can't. I'm sorry to my boy Joe. I love you, dog, but I think you would agree with me. Like the Steelers just need to really they need to get creative again. They need to become innovative as an organization, stop resting on the laurels of the past, and find new guidance.
Yeah, and I'll say this to close the argument, with the Steelers. Being in the AFC is not great over the next 5 to 10 years. There's a lot of quarterbacks locked into some massive contracts. Seems like the up and coming quarterbacks like Drake May, Bo Nix, two guys that have won a lot now at this point, right? They're all in the AFC. All the big dogs are in the AFC long term right now. And the Steelers, outside of this year where it was basically they're going all in, putting the chips on the table, saying this is going to be our year with Aaron Rodgers. We're going to get the vets, right? They went all in on one year. Next year, this roster is going to be in a tough place, and they're going to have to look themselves in the mirror and figure out whether or not they want to try to roll the dice one more season on a veteran heavy roster or start to blow this thing up and accumulate draft picks, kind of like the New York Jets are saying, hey, we have no chance with some of these stars we have on our team, right? Let's just completely rehaul this thing and build it from the ground up because in the AFC, I know we talk about it like it's madness right now, but the reality of the situation is there's a lot of great quarterbacks in the AFC that will beat you when it comes crunch time in those one score games that you just can't compete with if you don't have that guy at quarterback or a significantly talented roster around him. So I think with the Steelers, like you just got to figure it out and build around a new team starting next year.
I do want to add, when it comes to Buffalo, I didn't really touch on them very much. I think this team can win the AFC just with the fact that, like you said, they've got the experience edge on pretty much everybody that's going to be above them. It looks like right now, even if Kansas City and Baltimore get in, the Baltimore might be the 4 seed, but at 8 and 9, right? Like
Yeah.
the Bills, out of the teams that realistically have a better shot than them entering, probably will have the most experience, as you alluded to, and they've got Josh Allen, who like is the most experienced guy outside of Patrick Mahomes in these situations. You can make an argument that he has been the best quarterback in the AFC over the last 2 years. Depending on you splitting hairs between him, Mahomes, Lamar, wherever you fall on that side, he's got an argument to be made. He's a great player, and that's why they have a chance. But when I look at this team, though, like they don't have a difference maker at wide receiver. When the run game can't get going, they get kind of lost. The defense is not exactly great. Like they're fine. They played well today. They were able to make some plays, but let's face it, the Steelers offense is not very good. Like this Bills defense they lost the game to Davis Mills last week. Texans backup quarterback on an offense that already is mediocre at best. So it's like there's not enough, especially when you talk about the coaching that has its own issues in Buffalo. There's not enough on this team to make me feel like they can do it. And to top it all off, they'll have to go and do it on the road. It looks like they're going to have to go, and if they want to make the Super Bowl, they're going to have to win 3 straight road playoff games in the AFC. And even if they have the experience, I don't know if that's going to be enough for them. So when it comes to where I'd rank the AFC teams, I'd have the Bills somewhere maybe the third or fourth most likely to make it out of the conference, but it's definitely a possibility because the gap between any of these teams is not large at all.
No, it's not. And we'll talk about the AFC South now. Houston got a massive win today over the Indianapolis Colts, 20-16. This game was back and forth the entire game. And Houston found a way to win a gritty, ugly game. And obviously, Jacksonville took care of business against Tennessee. I was low key on upset watch. I thought Cam Ward took a step over the last 2 weeks, but the team around him is just so bad right now. And they just don't have a chance right now. So it's good for them long term, but the Jaguars now are sitting at 8-4, top of the division. Colts are in the wild card spot now, and the Texans are knocking on the door at that 8th seed in the AFC. Dan, I'll start with you. What are your reactions from all these teams in the AFC South and how this playoff race is starting to shake out in that division?
Yeah, well, I like Houston, man. I think the Colts are slowly fading away here. They're dealing with injuries. It's kind of just, I think, just a little bit of bad luck for them. It's tough. They're a solid team, but they're kind of running into a buzzsaw. The people are getting injured, like I said, and then you got to play the Texans again coming up. The Texans are a good team, man. I really love their defense. Um, I just they have a chance to go ride the wave here and go to the Super Bowl behind their defense. Their defense is special. They showed that today, and CJ Stroud's healthy. I'm happy he's back, and watch out. I thought they had a lot more success running the ball too. I thought Woody Marks looked really good. That was my impression. I'm looking at this here. The Texans are 13-4 in divisional games since D'Amico Ryans took over. That's the best record in the NFL. So if they continue that stretch, they might somehow win this division. But I tell you, this game next week, man, there's some huge matchups in the NFL next week, and I know they play Jacksonville. Houston
Yeah.
does. So that game could decide the division here, and we're gonna learn a lot about these two teams. I know Ryan's a big Jaguars guy. That eventually they're gonna get caught up here. The Titans, they're just undermanned, dude. It's. I know Cam Ward's look good. It's not all on him. He just doesn't have enough talent around him. That defense is underrated, but once your offense continues to go three and out, you're gonna get tired, and the opposing team's offense is tough to stop. So Tennessee's rebuilding. Jacksonville, they're gritty. They're one of those teams that have a lot of flaws, and I think out of right now, the best team in that division is the Houston Tech.
I'll say this. I think Houston, right, might be the most frustrating team to go against in this division. Do I think they're going
Yeah,
to
man.
win the division? No. I think, honestly, the
What do you
team
got?
I'm picking to win the division, I made a YouTube video on this last week. I'm going with Jacksonville. And it's not because I think Jacksonville's the best team in this division. It's because of the schedule, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to who each of these teams are playing. The Colts and the Texans got two tough schedules coming up. And obviously, with, Houston, it's a little different, right? You have Kansas City, and then you have the Colts and the Chargers, right? Those are three of the tougher games, but you get
Yeah,
Cardinals and Raiders, who they should be able
what
to
about
take
those
care
teams?
of. Right. I didn't mean anything by that, Dan. I didn't mean anything by that. I know those are your
Don't
guys,
play
but
that.
with Jacksonville, I mean, they have a cakewalk outside of these Indianapolis games. If they could split with Indianapolis and take care of business against some bad teams, they'll be in a really good spot sitting at 12-5 potentially, or 11-6. And no, do I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are a good foundational team by any means? No. Trevor Lawrence has his flaws. This defense is very inconsistent. While they do have some flashy players on that defense, they make a lot of splash plays. They're not a great overall team. But the way Indianapolis is trending, and we've seen this, right? It's just not looking great for them. Their defense lost Sauce Gardner, their biggest addition,
Yeah, it did.
and we'll see how long he's out. Thank God it's just a calf strain, but that was a major swing for them at the deadline, and it looks like he's going to miss some time,
Yeah,
right?
it
On
was.
offense, Daniel Jones is dealing with a fractured fibula, right? His movement's not the same. This passing game hasn't been as effective over the last few weeks, and if you focus heavily on slowing down Jonathan Taylor, this offense hasn't been just as efficient. I've given the Colts credit on the defensive side of the ball. They've held up really well in the red zone over the last 2 weeks, and they've kept these games close. And they fought really hard against a tough Texans defense. But Houston's coming in hot, man. They found ways to win with Davis Mills and CJ Stroud. While he didn't look great in his return, he did just enough. And Jaden Higgins is starting to emerge as a really solid wide receiver, too. Really good defense in Houston. A little bit tougher of a schedule entering this week. 53% winning percentage over their final 3 opponents. Colts 57%. Jacksonville sitting at 45%. So if I had to pick one team to win it, I'm going with Jacksonville. But this week is incredibly important for Houston and Indianapolis where they will finish, because if Houston is able to beat Kansas City, that most likely knocks them out of the playoffs, right? If Indianapolis loses to Jacksonville, it sets the tone for where this division race is going to go. Brady, what are your thoughts?
I'll start from the bottom up here. Just really quickly to touch on the Titans. I've been working on a take, and I believe
I think I saw this today on
what I'll say
TikTok.
is that I don't know if the Titans can make the moves organizationally to get to the level that the next guy that I'm going to mention's team did the past offseason. But Cam Ward, watching him on this team reminds me a lot of last year when I would watch Drake May and his Patriots tape. I was like, man, like the situation around him sucks, but he's making some really good throws. Like this looks like a really good player. They just got to get some guys. And that's how I feel when I watch the Titans and I turn on the all 22 Cam Ward. I'm like, dude, these throws are sick. Like these deep balls are amazing. He extends the play. He's a very talented guy. He's just not working with anything. There's no coaching in place. There's no offensive line in place. There are no pass catchers in place. The defense sucks. They're the worst team in the NFL. And I feel like if they can just build around him, again, I'm not sure it'll be a one and off season turnaround like it was with New England. It was kind of like the stars all aligned with the schedule, with the coaching, with the drafting, with the free agent. It's like I don't know if Tennessee is going to be able to do that, but if they can in the next 2 years get some sort of decent infrastructure around Cam Ward, I think they'll be really pleased and move forward with him. As for the Colts, if only somebody could have seen this coming. Oh wait, somebody did. It was me. I've not been a
Hey,
believer
it's injuries though.
in this team.
It's injuries.
Is it?
I
It's
didn't
a
know the
little
guy
bit.
was
It's a
gonna
little
break
bit.
his
It's a little bit of
Daniel Jones gonna
injuries.
break his fibula.
It's a little bit of injuries, but I think it's also inevitable regression before the fibula. I mean, we saw Daniel Jones go 6 straight 3-and-outs last week to end the game. We saw him play terrible against Pittsburgh. I felt like it was only a matter of time before, not that he would become trash, but like that we saw him regress to the mean a little bit. And when your running game is the number one source for your offense in today's NFL, I feel like eventually teams are going to kind of call your bluff a little bit. They're going to force your hand and be like, hey, we are going to turn you into a drop back team. We are going to see if you can beat us throwing the ball. We are not letting your running back have a day on us. And I feel like that's what teams have kind of done these last few weeks between Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Houston. And those are teams with good defenses too. But I don't know. Jacksonville, I feel like the writing, or not Jacksonville, sorry, Indianapolis, the writing has been on the wall a little bit. And they head to Jacksonville next week where they have not won in 11 years. They're going to have to try and buck a serious trend over at what is it, TIAA Bank Stadium or whatever they call it in
Everbank
Jacksonville.
Stadium, bro. The amount of times they say Duval
Yeah, I
Indoor.
don't know. They've changed it a billion
Yeah, I
times,
love that
but
state.
say what you want about the Jaguars. Liam Cohen has done a really, really good job. He should be right at the front of Coach of the Year candidates right now. I think that Vrabel is probably the favorite there. Ben Johnson right there as well. But Liam Cohen deserves his props for what he's done there. I mean, Trevor Lawrence still has not looked great, but they just find a way to win the games. Like they play not a sexy style of football. They don't really have like one or two guys you can point to and be like, oh yeah, that's the reason that they're winning. But they just find a way to win these games. And I mean, they bludgeoned the Chargers. They beat the 49ers earlier in the year. They beat the Chiefs. It's not like they're just beating up on scrubs. Like they're finding ways to win games against solid football teams. And I agree, Ryan, like they have a really good chance to win this division because of the way that their schedule shakes out compared to Houston and Indianapolis. What stinks for them though, if they didn't blow a 29-10 lead a couple of weeks ago in Houston, they could already have this thing close to wrapped up, but they
Yeah.
did. Texans began their hot streak with that. And that brings me to the Texans. I do believe this team is going to win the AFC South. I think they're going to win it for a third consecutive year, which is crazy. I didn't think they were going to be able to overcome what what the start they got off to at the beginning of the year. But I do remember seeing like week 3, week 4, they were one of the highest rated DVOA teams of all time among teams that started 0-3. Like it was some tough luck for the Houston Texans. I mean, I remember they lost to the Rams week 1 in a tough
Yep.
game. Like they're playing some good teams, but they're great. The defense is great. The offense is good enough to win this division. I don't think they're good enough to make a run in January, a serious run at least, but they've got just a phenomenal lockdown defense. Derek Stingley might be the best cornerback in the NFL. He's got an argument. Their pass rush is insane with the duo of Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. They're solid in the run game. I mean, they're just a great, great team. And this game in Arrowhead on Sunday night is going to be a playoff game. Like they can deliver probably the final knockout blow to the Kansas City Chiefs in the 2025 season, or the Chiefs can do what we saw them do against the Colts last week, be resilient, beat another AFC South team at home that's playing really well. They're hot, they're riding high. Chiefs can say, not yet. We're not done just yet. So I'm excited for that matchup. And it'll be really interesting with the Chiefs likely down what, three offensive linemen potentially? The
Yeah,
Josh Simmons and Trey
Simmons will
Smith.
be out for sure. We'll see if Trey Smith and Taylor are back.
Yeah, against that pass rush, it's going to be a tall task, and the Chiefs will have to get off to a hot start. So that is definitely the game that I have circled next week, that Texans and Chiefs. But I think the Texans are the squad that comes out on top in this division.
Yeah, and I think, before we wrap up this AFC South talk, it really feels like the tiebreakers between, the Texans and Chiefs and Colts and Chiefs are going to come into massive play down the stretch here. It was looking like, the Jacksonville Jaguars tiebreaker would be a big one with Kansas City. That one's obviously huge. You look at the Chargers, right? But honestly, the AFC South tiebreakers with Kansas City is what it might ultimately come down to in this matchup. It's going to be very important this next week. Dan, you talk about the AFC being madness. Let's talk about the NFC madness we got going on. The Bears are first in the NFC, and they have a losing record in their
Hey,
own division.
shout out Bad Boy CC.
And you know why they're first in their division? It is because the Rams laid an absolute egg today against the Carolina Panthers. Matthew Stafford got a little careless with the ball, and their defense did not show up. It was basically the Panthers turned on shoe clock, ran the ball a ton of times, were able to negate the Rams' possessions, and had a nice day. So, Dan, what were your thoughts on the biggest upset of the week? And why are the Panthers just this team that's incredibly frustrating and hard to predict on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I mean, if you watch that, come on. I mean, come on. The Panthers had a horseshoe up their rear end. I think. How what 2 touchdowns? The Panthers got 2 touchdowns on fourth down. What are the chances of that? One of Stafford's interceptions was a deflection off of defensive lineman, I believe Derek Brown. Yeah, you just can't expect that. I think the ball didn't bounce the Rams' way today, and even how bad of the balls did bounce a certain way, the Rams were driving at the end of the game, and they got strip sacked. Stafford was inside their own territory, and he got strip sacked by Derek Brown. Derek Brown's one of the best interior defenders in the league. It's good that he's getting his praise now. He's been awesome. But overall, I'm not worried about the Rams. The Rams are one of the better teams in the league. Bad games happen, and when you spot a team, any team in the league, I don't care who you are, if you spot them 7 points off a pick six, it's gonna be a dogfight the rest of the way. And the Panthers always seem to play a game like this when it's raining, tough weather in Carolina. I don't know. It's like I kind of thought of it like a black hole when teams go there. Just weird stuff happens in that stadium, and you saw it today. The Panthers, Bryce Young, he threw for like 206, so it's not like he lit the world on fire. But overall, they a lot of explosive plays. I think all their touchdowns, what three? They had 3 touchdowns that were explosive. So that's the difference in today's game. But overall, I'm not worried about the Rams. They're gonna probably bounce back, and they're gonna come here to Arizona and try to rebound against the Cardinals.
Yeah, and you kind of take a look at, their division itself, right? They have three teams now tied atop of the NFC West with 9 wins.
Yeah,
San Francisco
crazy.
obviously hasn't had their bye week, so they're 9-4, but Seattle sits at 9-3, pitched a shutout today against Minnesota. We'll talk about the Vikings in a second and that disaster, but Seattle's defense is one of the best in football. The Rams have a great offense and a great defense, but it feels like every time we watch the Rams lose, it's almost like they beat themselves. It's special teams miscues, it's block kicks, it's penalties, right? It's this game here where Stafford, they're driving down the field, gets a little careless with the football in this game, and their defense doesn't get off the field. It's not like the Rams are less talented than the teams they're losing to. They're just finding ways to lose these games where it shouldn't be a massive concern, but when it comes playoff time and you look at the game last year against Philadelphia on the road, they had a lot of chances to win that ball game, and ultimately they came up short. It was a few minor miscues they made throughout the game that prevented them from winning that big time game in Philly, and obviously Philly goes on to win the Super Bowl. Now Los Angeles is even more talented. The NFC, Philly's got their problems, right? You take a look at the NFC North, we got no clue what we're getting from the Packers on a weekly basis. who knows if Chicago is going to be able to keep this winning streak going. Detroit might not even make the playoffs. Tampa Bay has really struggled. Seattle's probably their toughest matchup because they're a division opponent, but it's really the Rams conference to lose at this point. They're the most talented team. They have the hottest quarterback in football. They're the best receiving duo in football. They have an elite defense that can stop the run and rush the passer. It is Los Angeles' conference to lose. And the only way they lose it this year is if they keep coming up with these miscues and these close games that ultimately cost them. When I get to the playoff picture, I'm still picking Los Angeles. They're the most talented team. This is a bump in the road, but this is something a veteran team should be able to overcome and maintain it and hopefully win the division here down the stretch. Brady, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you that it's still LA's conference to lose, but I have a scenario that I think presents them the most trouble. That is,
Hmm.
now you've got the third loss. You've drawn even with the Seattle Seahawks, who you do have the head to head over. But you still got to go to Seattle. You got to go play in that environment. And the type of team that's at least defensively that Seattle is. I mean, we saw Stafford really struggle that first game at home in LA, but Sam Darnold just sucked even worse and threw 4 interceptions. And the Seahawks still had a chance there at the end of the game with a really long field goal. If they just gotten a little bit closer and hadn't got pinned on the punt, who knows how that game ends. Now, let's say that Seattle wins that game in the rematch. All of a sudden, they're the number one seed. And that means that if they face off in the playoffs, the Rams have to go to Seattle again for a rubber match. And what really worries me is when it comes to the Rams, the two teams that could give them the most trouble, in my opinion, are the Seahawks and the Eagles because they have those ferocious pass rushes. Matthew Stafford cannot move. He's not mobile. And you saw on that strip sack, I mean, that's one of those plays. It's not a high percentage play. You can't rely on that as a defense, but it was a microcosm of where the Rams can get hit. Is Stafford can't move around. He can't extend the play. If you get pressure on the inside and on that blind side, like that's where a turnover like that can swing the game in a playoff scenario. So that's where I think the Rams got to be careful, and you don't want to draw, especially on the road, one of those D line matchups. So it's important to get that one seed, and if they lose that game to Seattle, they're probably not getting the one seed. So that's one that I'll have circled, that rematch. You know, Mike McDonald is a great coach. You'll have them ready to go against another great coach in Sean McVay. Also, MVP line moving. Yeah, I think
Big
Stafford,
time.
it's still his award to lose, but I think he entered the day like minus 450, and now he's down to like plus or minus 130. And Drake May closing the gap. We'll see how that game goes tomorrow night. I think it's definitely a trap game for the New England Patriots. Could talk about that a little bit later,
Dale
but
was saying that too.
yeah, I mean, just with the injuries that they have and the pastors of the Giants. But anyways, you look at the
Hey,
NFC North.
injuries matter, Brady. Injuries matter.
I know, but Drake May should be able to overcome it. I think he's a little bit better than
Yeah, I know.
Daniel Jones, so we will
Drake
see.
May's in the
But
Matrix.
when it comes to the NFC North, I think the Bears. I'm still not sold on them making the playoffs. I have to be honest with you. Like just because the way that their schedule shakes out, I think Green Bay is better than them. You look at Caleb Williams, he is in the bottom half of all starters in EPA per play and PFF pass grade. It's not like Caleb Williams has had this like great second year ascension, and that's why they're winning these games. The win against Philly was their most convincing win that they've had. That's the win that makes me go, okay, wait a minute, this team could make the playoffs. They could make some noise. I'm not there yet. I told Chris the other day, I'm not there yet. But they're making strides. And Ben Johnson is a great coach. But it's like the defense, I don't see anything that's like, oh yeah, this is an elite defense. That can carry them to where they need to be. I look at the offense, I'm like, this is still messy. This still gets pretty clunky. The run game isn't great. The drop back passing game isn't great. I see the pieces there. I don't know if they're there yet. And I think that Green Bay is a really bad matchup for them. I think that Green Bay is going to smoke them when they play. I mean, we've seen a lot of these 20-17 type of wins. You've seen these like 17-16 wins against subpar teams, teams that the Bears are better than. And I don't think the same goes for the Packers. I think with Micah Parsons and the way that he's playing and the way that defense is playing, this team has been able to weather the storm of not having Jaden Reed, of losing Tucker Kraft. I think that they're going to start to get hot at the Packers. I said this last week on the show. Packers are the team that I think is going to win the NFC North. And I do think that the Lions are also in serious, serious danger of missing the playoffs. I mean, you thought that the offensive line was going to at least get a boost of Frank Ragnow. That's not happening now. He's not coming back after all, which is got to be the biggest blue balls of all time for Detroit fans. You thought you were getting your all pro center back. Nope, that ain't happening. Uh, But I mean, they've just looked really, really uninspiring on offense. Even worse since Dan Campbell took over taking plays, which a lot of Lions fans thought would be, kind of turn the tide and get the offense going. It just has not gone that way. When it comes to the NFC North, I like the Packers, but what I'm about to drop on you guys is a bombshell. There has been a new team that has emerged that I believe can win the NFC. I don't think they're going to, but there's another team that can win the NFC, and it is the Dallas Cowboys. Just because of the offensive firepower that these guys have. Dak Prescott is playing. I mean, the other day against the Chiefs, I said that was Dak's best game in how long? I can't remember the last game that I was like, oh, Dak Prescott looked better than he did against the Chiefs, especially after that first drive where he had the awful interception. You got CD Lamb, you got George Pickens. Their run game has been surprisingly efficient. I did not think Javante Williams was going to move the needle, and it's not like he's a world beater, but he's good enough. That O line is still good. It's all about the defense, and the defense is obviously still rated really poorly by DVOA, but they've looked a lot better since they got Quinnen Williams on that unit. I know Mahomes was able to get 4 touchdowns the other day, but they were able to do enough to slow down that Chiefs offense, especially in the middle 2 quarters. I'm not saying that they're punching their ticket to Santa Clara, but I think when you look at the teams that can realistically come out of the NFC, all of a sudden I think that Dallas is going to beat Detroit, and I think they're going to win out the rest of the way in the regular season. I think that they are a really, really good offense, and that makes anybody dangerous come January. I would keep an eye on the Cowboys.
I said this about Dallas. If you guys want to check out me and Dan's reactions from the other games on Thanksgiving, right, and Black Friday,
Yeah,
right,
please
check
do,
those
please
videos out.
check it out.
I said this about Dallas, right? I said Philadelphia needs to watch their back because Dallas is not too far behind them in this division race. And since they split, right, it's definitely a little bit worrisome. And Dallas has the offensive firepower to do it. I mean, it's hard enough to match up against CeeDee Lamb. Imagine George Pickens and what they've been able to do with him and his development now in this offense. I mean, the Cowboys have taken those strides. So they're a team that if they get in, they're going to be a tough out for anybody this postseason. But you take a look at a team like the Bucks, right? They have been very, I don't know what to even just how to describe them right now. They're just not good. I think is the best way to put it. They're
That
they're pretty
division's in
mediocre.
question all of a sudden.
Yeah, that division's in question, and they're just a mediocre team, right? They got these matchups against the Panthers coming that will likely decide the division, but
Yeah,
the Bucks have just played mediocre football, right? They've been super injury prone the entire season, but the defense is not great, right? They put up like today look good, like you only lost 17 points, but the yardage this team allows on a weekly basis just puts yourself in a position to fail. They don't really stop offenses that well, and Baker just hasn't been playing at
Who
that Baker
remembers the
Mayfield
Baker
level.
Mayfield MVP talks in like week 5 and 6?
Him and Herbert basically died in that conversation after like week 3. But them two, it's funny. Like the MVP talks after the first 4 weeks, you need to like bookmark every single tweet from everybody and then come back like week 12 to through week 14 and say, how's this looking? Because the amount of people that said Justin Herbert and Baker Mayfield locked up the MVP, it was insane. Well, I'll say that with the Bucks. And then my final take for tonight, I'll say this with the Vikings before I let you go, Dan, for another take. But Max Brosmer is just a example of how the Vikings are failing Justin Jefferson. I mean, this is bad. They roll out JJ McCarthy and Max Brosmer for this guy, and it's horrible for Jay Jettas right now in Minnesota. And it sucks for Vikings fans. You have this veteran roster, you have a lot of money in place for this roster to be successful. You invest in a lot of talent on that offensive line. And sure, they've been injured this year, but everything is in place for the Vikings to win now. They won last year. You have basically your rookie quarterback in JJ McCarthy, who hasn't made a ton of starts in his career, second worst quarterback of all time, right above Jamarcus Russell throughout his career so far. And then you roll out Max Brosmer and he gives you 4 interceptions, the hometown kid from Minnesota. So, like, it couldn't be worse for Minnesota Vikings fans right now and Justin Jefferson. I just want to say I'm sorry for every Justin Jefferson fantasy owner right now. It's a rough stretch, and I'm not
Hey,
sure
when he's
if
a
it gets
Patriot
better.
next year, it'll be all good. It'll be
He ain't getting
I
traded.
heard he's going to
Ain't getting
Buffalo. I think
traded.
that's what I heard.
hey, if the Vikings are smart, I don't think they will because I don't think they are, but they would either get rid of or bench JJ and get the best bridge guy possible in Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray is the best bridge guy next
That's
year.
what That's what people think, but I don't.
You could do see, I could think you even do something, like, simpler than that where it's, like, not a guy that's had a little bit of success in the NFL, like, you get a guy like Jameis. I think Jameis and KOC could be fun. Throw
Well,
those 2
the,
together.
the the issue is I feel like KOC, the way this, I don't think this is right because I think he's a great coach, but I think like the way that things are going, like he's could be at least on a warm seat next year. Like especially from what I read from
Oh,
Vikings
next year.
people, like they like legitimate. Especially I see that the GM is going to be on like a fiery hot seat, but they're saying like KOC's seat is going to be warm. And my thing with a Jameis type of guy is like, is KOC going to be willing to be like, our ceiling isn't going to be super high, but we could raise the floor with this type of guy? Or is it going to be, hey, a guy like Kyler, the floor sometimes a little bit, but we've got a shot to win the North with this guy?
The
I don't
thing
know.
is, though, is if KOC becomes available, he's probably the most coveted coach on the market right away.
100%. NFL teams do dumb things when their team isn't winning, including firing good coaches. Look at Tennessee and Vrabel.
Tennessee is an unreal situation. Hey, Traylon Burks made up for, the A.J. Brown trade with that catch today.
Yeah, it's official.
Yeah,
Dan, do you got any,
they
final
knew what they were
takes for
doing.
us for this week?
Man, I was gonna ask. The Cardinals keep losing. That's what I got. Hey, so total
I can't
opposite.
pick them anymore, dude. I'm done with
Dude,
your team. I
but
pick them
I'm
every
saying,
week because the matchup's good on paper and
dude,
they just lay the egg.
no, so that's the thing. It's like the Cardinals are a team that can't figure out how to win. Like they lose. Dude, I'm telling you, if you watch these games, there's always one moment that like they miss a field goal or they throw an interception in the red zone. You're like, oh, I'm sure that's not gonna bite them in the butt. And every week it does. It's crazy. So it's the polar opposite with the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are on all these games and somehow they pull it out and win. And I think it just comes down to coaching and details. And I think that's why, like, you look at a team like that, the Bears. The Bears are all in these one score games. They continue to win. So
So
it's kind
I'll
of
say
fluke,
this
dude.
though, Dan. I'll say this. You look at a team like the Commanders last year that won a ton of one-score games, right? And the Chiefs are
Mhm.
even a more example, but I wouldn't really use them because they've just kind of been historically good in one-score games. But one-score games is a variable stat, right? It changes year to year.
Yeah,
And typically, if
exactly.
you don't have, let's say, like a top-tier quarterback, right? Those one-score games aren't as, consistent on a yearly basis. So you
No,
could even see a team like Denver, a team like Chicago, a team like Jacksonville. These all could be 5 to 7 wins next year. And I wouldn't be even surprised. And I could see a team like Arizona. They make the right moves. They have a fourth place schedule next year. They could be a
yeah,
team that
that's how it
jumps to
happens.
8 to 10 wins if they make the right moves this free agency because they're so close. Like we talk about it, their defensive talent.
LOA, law of average. Law of
Law of average. There
averages.
you go. Brady Cook there. Brady Cook.
Yeah,
But yeah, like
yeah,
these one score games and the teams that keep coming up on the wrong side, and even the Commanders are a great example. Like we felt like this was going to be a down year for them. Tough schedule. Won a lot of one score games. They're on the complete opposite side of it. They're losing
Vikings.
one score games. They're going to retool their roster. They're going to have draft picks. Jaden Daniels comes back next year. Like that's an easy bounce back candidate for me. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out long term. But I think as a Cardinals fan, like you'll get a new coach in there, talented roster. You have to be like somewhat optimistic of the future, as long as it's not like Mike Tomlin coming in where he'll turn that defense into a 9-8 crew, and then the offense you'll go get a savvy veteran quarterback, and then yeah, no. But ultimately, I
I don't
think
know what they're gonna do.
Arizona is an interesting team for sure. Brady, you got any final takes for this week?
Well, I have more of a question that's
Uh,
kind of a take formed in a question here. Why can't the Patriots win the AFC? Like that
mm,
genuinely, I know we talk about how
They could.
wide open it is. You look at I've talked about this before, like the ingredients that you need are the quarterback, the coach, and the defense. And I feel like the Patriots have all three of those. In another year in a field where like the Chiefs are the normal Chiefs, I wouldn't be as confident in this. And what I will preface this with is the one matchup that I do not want to see for the Patriots is the Chiefs, just off of the experience, just off of like the way that both teams play. I think if the Patriots I'm planting my flag. I'm going to say it confidently. If the Patriots can avoid the Chiefs, whether by the Chiefs missing the playoffs or just by not getting that matchup throughout the course of January, if they can avoid the Chiefs, they're going to the Super Bowl. I truly do believe that because you look at all of these teams. Buffalo, I think they're better than Buffalo all around. I think Buffalo has the slightly better quarterback, but the gap between the quarterback versus the gaps in the roster and the coaching, very, very different sizes there. You look at Indianapolis, they're starting to trail off. You think I'm taking Daniel Jones over Drake May in a playoff game? Hell no. You think I'm taking Trevor Lawrence and the Jags
Steve,
over Drake May
Steve.
and Vrabel in a playoff game? Hell no. Texans, tough matchup. I like the Patriots offense. I like the Patriots defense to overcome things more than I like the Texans offense. Denver, tough matchup. Same thing. I'm taking Drake May over Bo Nix. I think Vrabel and Peyton, similar level coaches. And I'm not saying this is a guarantee to happen or anything, but I do feel confident in the fact that they can avoid the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're better than the Ravens. I think that this team, it is a very real possibility. Nobody thought that this would be a sentence that we're saying at the beginning of December when we looked at it in the preseason. This team can win the AFC. And I think that they have a really good shot to win the AFC if they can get Campbell and Jared Wilson back and Milton Williams, get them back healthy, which they're tracking to do. It looks like Will Campbell could come back right before the playoffs start. Milton Williams should be back in about 2-3 weeks. This team can win the AFC.
Hey,
Dan, what are your
Brady, real
thoughts?
quick, who's saying they can't do that?
I don't know if anybody's saying that they can't, but I just think that
Oh,
for some, well, I know that there are like trolls and stuff that say that, but I think that
yeah, see,
the concept of it is just kind of still.
oh,
I
it's
think
gonna
it's
happen,
still.
man.
I think it's still early for a lot of people, just because this team has been so down for a few years, because the quarterback is so young, because of the schedule they've played. I think there are a lot of people that might not be saying that it's impossible, but I don't think that they've come around on the thought of it being a real
It can
possibility
happen.
quite yet.
It can happen. They need to stay healthy, man. They
I
miss
agree.
those two guys that you said, and
Um,
they are a real legit team. Like I don't listen to any of those guys, man. Trust your eyes, and they have a
These are the
legit
real
shot.
ball knowers on here.
That's why I'm
Blitz
saying
family.
whoever's saying that, send them the Blitz Sports Media. Tell them to check us out, man.
I'll say this, all right. I think with the Patriots, right, their biggest nightmare matchup in the playoffs is a team that can throw the ball very well, right? They're not very good against the pass this year. That's their biggest weakness as a team overall. And they're gonna have to play in shootouts, right?
Specifically over the middle of the field passing, because they're all right on the outside, but once you can have a tight end and a slot guy that can attack the middle of the field, that's where I agree with you. They get in trouble.
Well, and that's like you look at the playoff picture though, and that's kind of
Yeah,
plays
you
well
got
into their hands, right? I think, the matchups that aren't great, and just in terms of an offensive standpoint, I think Kansas City's a tough matchup for them. I think Los Angeles, the Chargers, are a tough matchup for them, and I know they're down their offensive lineman, but the weapons they have in that passing game would give the Patriots problems with Rondé Gadsden. You mix in Lad McConkey in the slot and the guys on the outside, like that's a tougher matchup
Hey,
for a
I
team
think
that
they
struggles
missed the
like them.
playoffs right now, by the way. I
That's
didn't
what,
mention
yeah,
that. I think the
I
Chargers
think,
miss.
well, that's what I said. I thought Jacksonville or Los Angeles would miss 2 weeks ago, is what I
yeah.
said. Jacksonville won the game. I didn't think they'd win against Arizona. Now I think Jacksonville trends to win the division, especially after their win against Tennessee. Los Angeles, right? Everybody expected them to beat the Raiders, but they got a really tough schedule to close. And like that game, every game with Kansas City down the stretch here, it's going to mean a lot. That game with them
Oh,
in Kansas City is going to mean a ton in that playoff race, especially. I got no clue. But in terms of like
Prime
everybody
hate
else,
watching for a bunch of us over these last 5 weeks. We're all gonna be rooting hard for the Chiefs
everybody's hate
opponents.
watching, and then hopefully everybody's worst nightmare just doesn't happen. So
hey,
I
the
have
purple
been
got hurt
very
too.
I've been very depressed in watching my football team just be disgusting on the field over the last
We all feel
few weeks.
really terrible for you. Here's a song on the world's smallest violin.
Oh my
Well, yeah,
goodness.
no, I felt really bad when Spags couldn't figure out how to stop a slant route for like 8
Hey,
straight plays. That was
mean,
unbelievable.
I think they're
Funny thing is, I'm sitting with my
oh,
girlfriend's
go ahead.
family in her basement watching Chiefs and Cowboys, and I'm just dead silent watching
Uh,
George Pickens win on a slant route for the 10th straight time in a one-score game. I'm like, what are these guys doing,
this
bro? But
this guy. Hey,
back to my point though, as far as like passing games,
get
I'm
out of here.
genuinely scared of, and this is why I think like the Patriots are in a great spot. Buffalo is going to be a tough matchup for them just because they're a division opponent. They're going to have already played twice,
Yeah.
but Kansas City and Los Angeles are the two passing games I look at in the AFC and say, oh, those would be tough matchups for New England on the defensive
I
side
got
of
a
the ball.
team too. I got a
You
team
could
too.
argue Denver, but Denver throws the ball a lot. It's just not super efficient and effective. And I know Bo Nix has, elevated his play in tougher matchups, but they're way too inconsistent for me to
I'd feel
trust.
good playing Denver personally.
I mean, if you can score points, then yeah, you always feel good playing Denver. You just got to get through that defense. If you play Denver on the road, I think you like your chances. Or sorry, if you play Denver at home, you like your
At
chances.
home.
But you go to Mile High and play that defense there,
Tough game.
it's so hard. And that defense in Mile High is a different level, and that makes it tough. But with New England, right, they're gonna get the 1 or the 2 seed most likely, right? It just depends on which teams the wild card slot out. And there's probably a good chance they either see Los Angeles or Kansas City in their first game potentially, which probably would be the worst case scenario for Patriots fans. And best case scenario, they get situated with like the Colts, for example, who they should match up well and stop
Give
the
me the
Broncos.
Jags. I think the Jags would be my choice.
Everybody wants to face the Jags, bro. You can't just have them. But yeah, I'll say that I think the Patriots definitely have a good chance of making it out, and everybody's going to be like, yeah, you're right. Drake May is too young. They're a year early. All this, they've had an easy schedule. You know what happens in NFL history, guys? Guys win on rookie contracts. They make the Super Bowl more on rookie contracts. This is not an
Yes,
uncommon
Hey, listen,
thing.
before you give your team real quick, I just really quick, the comp that I have for them that I've had for weeks now is the 2021 Bengals. I see a lot of 21 Bengals in this team right now.
Mm. Interesting. I can
think they're
see it. I can see it a little bit. I can see it. I
So
saw the Titans earlier, but they're being more consistent. They have a better quarterback than
right,
that Titans team.
Dan, who is the team that you wanted to throw out there?
No, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I wanted to get your take since you're all worried about playing a team. If you had to welcome Joe Burrow in the playoffs, how scared would you be?
I think
Joe Burrow
Patriots
going
with
up to
Burrow.
Foxborough
I would have respect
if
for the
you're worried about over
matchup.
the middle.
I feel
They
like
don't have a defense.
I was gonna say I
That-
feel like they had their struggle game against Cincinnati's defense last week,
Yeah,
and
they
I
already
feel like
played.
off of facing them and stuff and having seen them, I feel like they could do pretty much whatever
Yeah,
offensively. But I do think that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase would keep it close for sure, and I'm very interested to see where the AFC North goes in terms of that because that Ravens. I mean, pretty much every Ravens game. Ravens are in a similar boat to the Chiefs, where like it's
right.
going to be a bunch of divisional games down the stretch that matter a ton for their playoff hopes. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, 100%. Well, hey, listen, we really appreciate you guys tuning into our Week 13 reaction show. Drop a comment down below of all of your takes for Week 13. Hit that subscribe button for more Blitz Sports Media content. Me, Brady, and Dan. We'll catch you guys next time.
Yes, sir.